Welcome back to Around the House, sponsored by Romac Building Supply. I'm your host, Don Magruder. If you like today's show, go to aroundthehouse.tv where you can sign up for our YouTube channel and our weekly newsletter. In this segment of Around the House, we're going to discuss your home's air conditioning unit. Now, in Florida, it's a must to have an AC unit that runs properly. The weather is either hot or cold, and you cannot stand it without a good functioning system. We have one of the best in the studios to discuss your air conditioning unit. Charlie Thompson, he's the operations manager with Munn Sales and Service. They're a leader in Lake and Sumter County in air conditioning and HVAC systems. So with that, I'd like to introduce Charlie Thompson, the operations manager at Munn Sales and Service. Charlie, good afternoon. How are you doing today?
I'm well, thanks.
We are glad to have you here because everyone has to have functioning AC here in Lake and Sumter County. Take a few minutes to tell us about Charlie Thompson and Munn Sales and Service.
Well, Munn's is a family-owned company that's been in business in Leesburg since 1964, and we've been there all along. Mr. Aubrey Munn started the company, and his son Carl Munn runs the operation. And I've been there with him 18 years and started from the ground floor and worked up through the ranks. And it's a great company, and we can take care of all the needs of air conditioning and, like you said, Lake and Sumter County.
And I guess we're going to get into this later, but in the last 18 years, the technology has really changed in HVAC units, haven't they?
Yeah, it's kind of like a car. I mean, air conditioners, they still make cold air like they always did, but the way they do it's a lot more fancy motors, fancy controls. Yep.
Now, I'm sure people will hear something on today's show that they'll have a question. If so, how can you be contacted, and where's your office located?
We're located on Highway 441 in Fruitland Park, right across from the Phillips Auto Dealership, and someone can call our main number, 352-787-7741, or they can send a message on our website, www.munnair.com.
What type of HVAC units, and that stands for heat and ventilation and air conditioning, what type of systems do you sell and service at Munn's?
Well, we're a Carrier factory authorized dealer, which is the top tier of Carrier. So we sell Carrier equipment, and we can service any makes and models of any manufacturers.
I'd like to go through a little terminology because a lot of people hear things in air conditioning units and they say, they can say yes, but they really don't know what it means. For example, I've heard for years tonnage. When someone says it's 3 ton, 4 ton, what does tonnage mean in the air conditioning unit?
Well, a technical answer is a ton of air conditioning can remove 12,000 BTUs of heat per hour, but that's silly. The easiest way to say it, I like to think of it is tonnage is how much cold air can it make.
Right.
And the bigger the number, the more it can make.
But the most important has nothing to do with the actual weight of the air conditioner.
Right, it has nothing to do with the weight. It just has to do with how much cold air it can make for things. 5 ton is the biggest they make for residential, and after that it turns into commercial equipment.
Now, I've been told, and we'll talk about this maybe a little later on, that having the higher tonnage thing is necessarily not the best. You need the right size air conditioner for your house. So many people want to overkill. That's not a good recommendation.
No, it's far worse to be oversized than it is to be undersized, even if you had to make a choice. And the reason is, if it's too big and too powerful, it'll come on, cool the house real quick and shut off, and it doesn't have a chance to run to remove humidity. So you get high humidity with too big of an air conditioner.
Part of the building or our building permit process, we know if you get a new air conditioning unit or you build a new house, is you have to have a calculation, an energy calculation, and it involves the SEER of the unit. Explain to us what an energy calculation does and what does it mean with this SEER rating.
So energy calculations we do for permitting for new houses. What we do is take the software and describe the house to it. What kind of attic insulation, what type of windows, what type of doors, how high are the ceilings, et cetera, et cetera. And then that calculates what size air conditioner you need. And then there's another set of energy calcs that Florida Building Code has energy efficiency codes, and we have to make sure that that same house is efficient enough as a house to be able to be built in Florida.
Now one area that these calculations run into a wall is lanais. A lot of times people will close in a lanai to avoid doing an energy calculation. They claim they won't put ductwork in there, and then they'll open it up. if you're really going to close in the lanai and make it climate control, you need to do an energy calc, shouldn't you?
Yeah, it's really far best to do it up front because the calculations are so tight these days with the codes. We can't oversize a unit for anticipation of closing in a lanai later. So if you end up doing that later, your unit's not going to be big enough to handle that anyway.
So if you have a lanai and you close it up with the heat of the lanai, it could mess up. Now, you're talking about SEER. Go again about SEER.
So SEER, I like to think of that like miles per gallon in your car.
Right.
SEER is an efficiency rating. It's how much electricity it takes to do the job. So whereas tonnage is how much cold air it can make, SEER is how much is it going to cost you to do that. And the higher the SEER number, the cheaper that is to operate.
So these numbers mean a lot, and a lot of times people get these tossed around and they're making mistakes. See it all the time. I got a good question. What's the difference between a heat pump and a regular air conditioning system?
Well, you know, when I think of an air conditioner, I think even as a kid going out to the outdoor unit and it blows hot air all summer. It's just blowing really hot air.
Yeah.
And inside is blowing cold air. That's an air conditioner. What a heat pump does is it has the ability to just flip-flop those. The thermostat controls it. So in the winter, it's literally air conditioning outdoors, which who cares, it's outside, but it's blowing that hot air inside.
Oh, okay.
And that actually uses about 1/3 of the electricity as old-fashioned electric heat strips that some people have. So it's way more electric efficient.
But if we're not having cold winters, what's, I know it's an open question. What do you think's best for Central Florida, like here in Lake and Sumter County?
Well, I mean, heat pumps are definitely better than electric heat. I just said it's 3 times more efficient. And heat pumps start to lose their efficiency if it gets like in the upper 30s or colder. But we don't have very many of those days in Central Florida, so it's okay. And then, you know, gas furnaces, if you happen to have natural gas in your area, they work great as well.
Let's talk about servicing air conditioning units. A lot of people, they service them when they break down. That's not good. What's your recommendations on servicing units? I know you guys, you have a tune-up program, don't you?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Explain that whole process to us.
Well, the carrier and all the manufacturers recommend to have twice per year maintenance. You know, I've heard it said that air conditioners and your heat pump specifically in Central Florida get the equivalent of 100,000 miles on your car in a year. In other words, they're used constantly. And so you need proper maintenance. And we come out twice a year and we'll clean the drain line out and clean the outdoor coils and check the refrigerant levels and the motor amperages and just check the whole system to make sure everything's operating what it's supposed to and try to catch things that happen before they're a breakdown and then, you know, it's in the middle of July and you're sweating and your air conditioner's broken.
Okay. Filters. It seems like people forget to change AC filters. That's a big deal,
That's a big deal.
And there's grade of filters. Tell me your recommendations on when filters should be changed and what type of filters do you recommend? You know, they're coming out with some filters say they're good for a year now.
Yep. I told you I started at the ground floor at Munn's and I've worked up through as a technician for many years. And I've seen as a technician, we have these 4-inch media filters, the big, thick filters that go right into the duct system. And those are the ones that we replace once per year. People that have those, I've seen as a technician, their coils are completely clean, and when they're clean, they're operating at peak efficiency.
Okay.
So that's definitely my recommendation is to have something. We can put those in when we change the equipment out. If you don't have that, a good quality pleated filter from a local store would be better than just the old fiberglass filter.
But I'm assuming in your office in Fruitland Park, right?
Yes, sir.
You have filters and replacement parts.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Now, you've got some great technology things you want to show us, some neat stuff. So we're going to head over to the Romac Show and Tell desk, and Charlie Thompson from Munn Sales and Service is going to give us some great technology that you can incorporate in your house now. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Around the House. We're at the Romac Building Supplies Show and Tell desk with Charlie Thompson. He is the operations manager for Munn Sales and Service, and Charlie's got a lot of wonderful things he's going to show us for Around the House. Charlie, what's this first item you have down here?
Well, you know, we've been in business since 1964 in Leesburg, and we've put air conditioners in for decades, and every one we've put in has a thermostat.
Right.
And they used to be some old Honeywells, and they had the little levers on them, and just, you know, technology changes with everything, even thermostats. And this is a Nest Learning thermostat. We're a Pro Elite dealer for Google Nest products.
So you're with Google?
With Google, yes, and we have their entire line. These thermostats are super simple to operate. The thing when programmable thermostats came out, they were good for saving energy, but nobody could figure out how to program them.
Yeah.
Well, this has taken all of that away. All you do is before you go to bed at night, you want a little colder, you just turn it colder, and the next day you get up and warm it back up a little bit. Do that for a couple of days, and it learns your habits, and it takes over. And
Wow.
you don't even have to program it. The other thing that's neat about it is it has a feature called geofencing, and what that is you put the app on your smartphone, and when you leave the house, it realizes you've gone away, and it'll warm the house up a little bit to save you money. And then when you start coming home, it knows you're coming home, and it cools it off before you get there. So this thermostat is super simple to operate, saves money, and it's got a nice big display. It's great. We love them.
And what's this here?
So the Nest Protect is the smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector combo that Nest has that comes in hardwired or battery versions. And these are nice because you can program them to have a little night light if you want them in a hallway. You don't have to have that feature. You can give them names, and it'll actually talk to you and say, I'm smelling a little bit of smoke in the kitchen. Go check it out. This will actually say words.
The nice thing about this, so many of our people have these keyless cars now, and they're having a problem with carbon monoxide. Mm-hmm. That's a great addition to the house.
Yeah, even in garages, people forget about that sometimes.
What else do we have here, Charlie?
This, real quick, this thing here works with the thermostat because if it smells smoke, it turns the air conditioner off to just keep it from blowing smoke around the house.
Wow.
That's a great thing that they work together.
And then
there's the Nest Hello Doorbell. These are very popular with people. We put a lot of them in neighborhoods, villages all over the place, and people can, on your phone, see who's at the door and let them in if you want to.
And this looks like a little camera.
Yes, sir. Yep, there's cameras. You can have inside cameras, and there's outdoor cameras as well for security, and all of the things work on the Google Nest app. They all work together. One app controls everything.
And this is something you guys can install in people's homes?
Absolutely. We have a Nest Pro on staff, and that's his job, is to go around, and he's the expert in all things Nest, even door locks, alarms, everything Google Nest has, we can install.
A couple of quick questions, Charlie. How does someone prevent themselves from getting ripped off by air conditioning people? A lot of people get ripped off every year.
Well, these days it's a little easier than it used to be. I'd say first thing is ask friends and family for recommendations. Check Google, Better Business Bureau, and then you could even go so far as to go to myfloridalicense.com and make sure they're a licensed contractor. But just check reputation.
And when someone has a breakdown in their house of the HVAC unit, what's the biggest mistake most people make?
Well, I think talking about replacing the system, the biggest mistake I think people would make is waiting too long to do it. And the reason I say that is units are far more energy efficient these days than they used to, and people put that decision off for years and years. And with rebates in the fall, if you plan it and do it in the fall, you can save money on rebates, get 0% financing, and not have to suffer a breakdown in the middle of the summer. Fix it before it fixes you, I like to say.
Sounds like great. But Charlie Thompson from Munn Sales and Service, thank you for being our guest and showing us these wonderful things. And thank you for watching Around the House today. If you like today's show, go to aroundthehouse.tv, sign up for our YouTube channel and our weekly newsletter. Plus, don't forget Around the House, the column, Saturdays in the Daily Commercial. Until next time, we will see you around the house.